All right, welcome everybody. First off, I'd like to say thank you all for joining us today. I understand it can be very hard to steal away from work for a few hours, so I appreciate you guys making the time, making the effort to be here today to enjoy some great food, some great networking opportunities, and really take control and ownership of our learning. Today, we're going to be taking a deep look, a deep dive into the security solutions, right? We're going to be taking a look at on-premise solutions versus cloud-based, where we see the industry heading, and then I want to pass it over to Verkada, who's going to be taking a deep dive and showing you what that looks like from their technology, from their equipment. And if you guys see me staring at you, know that it is me looking at your food. That looks amazing. Thank you, Mark, very much for getting a great menu put together. So who are we? Warner Communications. A lot of us in this room are very familiar with that name. A lot of you utilize us for your radio communications, security technologies, in-building cellular enhancement, in-building public safety signal enhancement. Looking around the room now, we have so many different customers who have deployed so many different types of solutions. Up on the screen right now, here's another list, a continuation of the list of different offerings that we have between two-way radios, mobile radios, dispatch and fleet, repeater infrastructure, call recording and logging, of course, access control and cameras, cellular DAS, public safety DAS, the list goes on and on. So if you're seeing this screen today and weren't aware of some of these offerings, please get with us after. We would love to have that conversation with you and continue to explore options that will benefit you and your company. Warner Communications was established back in 1962 and is incorporated and is part of a larger part called the Warner family brands. You guys are all familiar with the St. Louis location, Warner Communications. We also have Detronics in southern Missouri. We also have Vocyon, where the locations are Houston, San Antonio, and Chicago. So as you can kind of see, we cover a lot of different territory across the states. So we do have those alternative locations. And so you might be asking, who's this guy in front of me? My name is Brian Glenn. I've been with Warner Communications for the past 3 years. Prior to my time at Warner Communications, I served 2 enlistments in the Marine Corps, where I was a Special Operations Communications Specialist. A really big, fancy title for saying I was the guy who got stuck carrying the really heavy radio when no one else wanted to do it. My jobs included doing and taking assessments and putting the preparedness forward based off the missions, taking those recommendations, doing those assessments, going to my team captain and team chief, and then implementing the needed communications for particular types of missions. I was also cross-trained by our intel analyst on our team to do base inspections, where I was taught on how to do perimeter checks, identify blind spots, and that was part of my duties while I was overseas, was to go to our partner force nation bases, do those base inspections, identify those locations, identify those blind spots, and then have those conversations with the base commanders and help oversee the implementation and improvement of their security. So that's just a little bit about me. So moving into what we have presented for today, and this is just, again, a little bit about who we are. So moving on to the meat and potatoes of this thing. So before I pass this off to Joy and Verkada, and if you're not familiar with Verkada, Verkada is a truly cutting-edge leader of the cloud-based industry. They are an amazing company who really have taken cloud-based systems a step forward and just have all these amazing things that they can do with their technology and the ability to integrate different types of solutions together in one pane of glass. So I'll be passing it off to them shortly so they can not just tell you about it, but show you what that system entails. But before we get there, I want to kind of bring you guys through and discuss with you on-premise solutions versus cloud-based, kind of talk to you about where that industry is heading, and kind of just take a look, kind of that bird's eye view about what's encompassed here before we jump into the cloud-based stuff. Now, As I'm talking today, it's going to seem a lot more security camera oriented. Just know when I'm talking cloud-based, on-premise based, that can be both cameras, access control, so on and so forth. It's going to be a little bit more tailored in my language towards cameras, but just know that is kind of goes back and forth. So what is an on-premise solution? An on-premise solution or on-premise system is when your camera is feeding back to you from that camera location, that cable is running back to an NVR. And included in that NVR are a bunch of hard drives that store and record all of that video footage. Now, based off the type of building, the size of the building, if you're talking about a multi-site campus, typically you're going to see a lot of different NVRs within that infrastructure that those cams are running to with all that hard drive space. So what is a cloud-based system, right? Imagine that same camera feeding back to, and instead of feeding back into an NVR, it's feeding back into a switch, which that switch is connected to the network. And it's storing your information not locally, but via the cloud. Now, in Verkada's case and situation, it's actually storing footage in multiple locations. It's storing your footage in the cloud and also on-premise as well on the camera itself. So you guys do have that kind of unique factor where you guys are storing in multiple locations. So talking about some of the pros of an on-premise solution, some of the pros is that depending on how that system is set up, you have full control of your data, meaning when that is feeding into the NVR, it's locally hosted. Your information's not going off-site unless you do have it connected to the network, right? So you have a little bit more protection of where the information's going. It's not reliant on internet connection. And there's no subscription fees, and it's a one-time setup cost. So when you see that big proposal out in front of you, that's the price you're going to pay. There's not any subscription fees. You see the cost of the equipment. You see the cost of the installation. Once you pay that cost, that is your system outright. And then going into some of the on-premise security camera cons, storage limitations. And so when you set up an on-premise solution, there has to be a lot of thought process and planning that goes into it and the amount of hard drives that you put in place to ensure that you are getting the video retention that you need, be it 10, 20, 30 days. That has to be set up on the front end. What I've seen happen in the past is people set up their systems, they deploy a camera system, then they add a bunch of extra cameras that's taking up additional space. Now we have to go back through, we have to switch out the hard drives, which comes at a cost, right? We have to upgrade the equipment, upgrade the hardware. So that's part of it. And the maintenance responsibilities. And I would probably say this is one of the biggest downsides to having an on-premise solution, is that there are a lot more hardware components. The more hardware that you have, especially if we're talking a multi-site system, the more NVRs, the more analytical cubes, whatever it might be, is the more hardware that needs to be maintained. The more hardware we have, are multiple and more additional points of potential failure. So anytime the system, as it ages, equipment needs to get switched out, this is where we kind of start to see that lower cost that we paid for an on-premise solution at the very beginning. We start to see that cost start to rise as additional maintenance needs to be done, be it either locally by the company's IT department, or if they have to outsource that to people like us at Wonder Communications to come on site, push updates to their NVRs, switch out the equipment. The maintenance side can be a little bit more difficult. Potential for system downtime, higher upfront costs. So when we kind of start talking about higher upfront costs, and the way that kind of looks like from an on-premise point aside is that there's a lot more programming and system configuration that needs to be done on the front side between the NVRs, the cameras themselves, putting in the actual hardware. There's a lot more to do from that installation side. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. Remote access limitations. And this really what it's kind of talking about is depending on how this system is set up, it's a little bit harder for multiple people to access the system simultaneously. So if we're in a situation where maybe we are a school district, we're working with security, and we need multiple people to monitor the system at the same time, this can be a little bit harder with on-premise systems as it can be harder to share out that information if they have to monitor that footage on site. If it is connected to the network and they can pull it up via a mobile app, there's a lot more limitations to what they can and can't do on a larger scale. Limited analytics features based on the hardware installed. And I kind of see this a lot. A lot of the on-premise systems that I have seen over time, be it maybe they have analytics built into the cameras, or maybe they have an analytics cube that the cameras run through that provide it with the analytics. Where I start to see some of the difficulties in this area as time evolves, newer technology comes out, new key features, newer analytics, it's harder to go back through the system and having to replace the actual hardware to ensure that you have the analytics that are keeping you modernized. And that's kind of some of the difficulties that we see here. And then from here, limited on system integrations with other security-based solutions. Now, when we start talking cloud-based, and I want to take a deeper dive here in a second, one of the beauties and benefits of cloud-based solutions is its ability to integrate with multiple different solutions under one pane of glass, be it intercom, guest management, cameras, access control, and a number of others that Verkada is going to be taking a deeper dive into here shortly. One of the limitations that we see on the on-premise side of things is that a lot of on-premise solutions typically act as standalones, meaning you have a system for access control, you have a separate system for cameras. They don't work together. There's two separate platforms we got to access. Now, that's not entirely true for every on-premise solution. Some on-premise solutions do allow you to merge your cameras and your access control together, but that's really kind of where we see that integration piece with other solutions stop. And they're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail, and I don't want to steal their thunder away from them. And the other thing we got to worry about, again, is that system aging, right? Again, the more additional hardware components that we have installed, the more upkeep that we have over time. We're going out, we're swapping out equipment, we're having to go through and manually push the updates. The additional components we have, the additional point of failures we have, equipment gets old, and typically the manufacturer warranties for these systems is 3 years. So when that NVR starts to go bad, it starts to age, needs to be replaced, that is an out-of-pocket cost from the customer that was unplanned and unforeseen. And so now we start talking about cloud-based security camera pros. Remote access and monitoring from anywhere. And this is probably one of the cool highlighted features that I really like to talk about because anywhere in the world where I have access to the internet, I can get on a laptop, I can get on my mobile phone, I'm able to pull up that platform and access my security solutions, be it access control, guest management, cameras. I have a lot more flexibility as to where I can access my data. I also have a lot more control if we're in a situation where maybe we're talking about a multi-campus, and I want to start making sure that each location has the ability to monitor their own site and keep it on that site. Meaning, if I'm head of security, I want to see each building security camera system, I can give my ability to do so, but then limit each security officer's ability to only see their security system. I can do that. And they can also have that same access that I have where I can access that footage anywhere on my phone and on my laptop. Scalable storage options. So kind of what we talked about with the on-premise solution, when we start talking about cloud-based storage, what you're really going to see is that that's included with the camera itself. Between having a camera that offers 30-day storage, 60-day storage, and 90-day storage, we don't have to start trying to figure out how many hard drives we need to have included for that footage to roll onto. And the other nice thing that we have the ability to do so is we can save footage indefinitely to the cloud. So I can back up certain clips, I can back up days, I can back up a large amount of footage that I need stored indefinitely to that cloud and always have readily access to it. Versus like an on-premise situation where if I want to save footage, maybe I have to download that onto a USB flash drive. It makes it a lot harder for me to access that information past the 30-day life cycle of that video. From there, the automatic updates and software management. And this right here is one of my favorite things to talk about. This right here is the biggest piece in my eyes of the benefits of a cloud-based system, is that your system is always going to be evolving with you. And that's by the automatic updates that the cloud-based allows through. So meaning, and this is my favorite thing to say to my customers when they buy into a cloud-based system, is that your system, the worst it's ever going to perform is on the day that you bought it. Meaning in 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, your system is growing. It is staying up to date on the latest technology and the latest analytics of its time. I don't need to, as these new features come out, manually go to my NVRs and pass those updates manually, even if that is an option. And some on-premise solutions, you're kind of stuck with what you got. If you want that upgraded package, the newest analytics, you got to start swapping out hardware. Not always the case. It depends on who you go with. But with a cloud-based option, I don't have to worry about that. It's going to automatically do it for me. And now let's say if I don't want it to automatically update, I have that control to say no. It's going to give me the option. So I have a lot more control over what my system is going to look like over the lifetime of the equipment. And then cost efficient over time. Minimal maintenance required. This is another really cool feature. In Verkada, this is something that Verkada does really well, and I've enjoyed it from my point of view with some of my customers. If something, part of the system does go down and you set it up to have that real-time notification, you have the ability to remotely troubleshoot the situation. Versus sending someone on site to do that for me, I have the ability to go through the web command app, open up a trouble ticket, and then allow them to temporarily remote and troubleshoot it on my behalf and then diagnose the issue. And if it is something, there is a camera offline, there's something wrong with the camera, Verkada does a great job at offering a 10-year warranty, and they are very generous with what they send over. You need a new camera? We'll send you a new camera under the warranty. And then from there, it just becomes a plug and play. So it takes a lot of the stress away from the IT teams, a lot of the stress away from the people who need to maintain the system. It's going to be more cost effective and more time effective than having to pay someone to either come on site or have my IT team allocate time to go to each location doing these things. And then the data security via encryption. And this is going to, and I'll talk about this a little bit more here in a second. And honestly, I think the Verkada team can probably hit on it the most about the latest and greatest and how they protect your information via encryption and how that has improved over the years from when it first came out versus where we are now and the improvements that have happened. And then more efficient in incorporating additional solutions into a single pane of glass. Again, cameras by themselves, awesome. Access control by itself, great. Guest management by itself, amazing. But when we have the ability to start blending these solutions to work together from one platform, that is really where we get to see a lot of the benefits and security and safety. There's a lot more functionality and promoting and seeing these technologies work together. And again, I'm really excited for you guys to see that from the Verkada team because it's one of my favorite things to show and see my customers because honestly, it's game changing. It's a complete game changer and I love showing it off. And then user-friendly interface and monitoring. Something also very important, right? When someone who's not familiar with technology gets into a system, it needs to be something that's intuitive, something they can kind of self-guide through without a vast means of training or courses and things of that nature. People want something that they can click into and start trying to learn how to navigate themselves that's user-friendly, that allows and promotes that. And cloud-based options really do a good job at promoting that. I myself, for the Verkada side of things, without ever having any experience, was able to remote in within 10 to 15 minutes, utilizing the analytics, utilizing the system the way it was meant to. A lot more user-friendly. And then total access to the system's entire capabilities. And this is another thing that I like to kind of pause and take a look at. There's so many different systems out there, especially on the on-premise side. In order for you to access special features, certain things, you have to pay additional money into additional hardware to support that, or you have to pay for additional software. There's a lot of hidden fees that can be associated with those costs versus with cloud-based systems, particularly Verkada. When you pay that licensing fee, you have access to everything. There is nothing off the table. There is nothing being held back. You have total and complete access to the system. There's no add-on fees later on. It is your system. It is yours to operate to its fullest capabilities. And then some of the cons, and this is probably one of the biggest objections when I meet with the customer. We talk about on-premise solutions versus cloud-based, and they ask me we want to see both options. Can you go ahead and price that out based off my needs? And I come forward with this, the two different solutions, and there's usually a pretty big price difference between an on-premise solution on the upfront versus that cloud-based due to the fact of the subscription base. Now, the nice thing with the subscription at the same time is that we do have the ability to set what that subscription looks like. It's not a month-to-month. It doesn't have to be month-to-month. I can make that look like a 1, 3, 5, and even a 10-year subscription. At a 10-year subscription, now you can accurately see the total cost of what that system is going to be. There's not any hidden costs in there. It's very plain to see what your entire investment is going into. And then the data privacy concerns. And again, earlier on, just like with anything else, when something first comes out, there's a lot of improvements that need to be made in enhancing that digital security. Verkada is going to talk about this a little bit more in detail, about where they started and about where they are now. And then from there, of course, the subscription, which we already talked about. And then so just to kind of recap what these key differences look like. Data for the on-premise side, the way that your data is being stored. For on-premise solution, it's being stored locally. If it's a cloud-based, it's on remote servers. The cost model for the on-premise solution is a one-time fee, not including all the hardware that we know we're going to have to replace along the way. And then versus a cloud-based, which is going to be more subscription. The maintenance for that on-premise solution, that's going to be self-managed versus the cloud-based, which is that provider-managed. And then the scalability, a lot more limitations on the on-premise side versus the cloud-based, which is a lot more flexible with the addition of new camera, integration of newer technology. And then, of course, the remote access restricted versus the unlimited access that the cloud-based has to offer. And here are some just additional benefits of cloud-based, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time jumping into this because this is something that the Verkada team is going to cover pretty well in depth during their presentation. I don't want to step on their toes and get to say all the cool things that they're going to say. So when we start talking about the total cost of ownerships, kind of how I was talking about before, upfront costs, when those two proposals are laid side by side between that on-premise solution and that cloud-based solution, the on-premise solution always looks a lot cheaper, right? Versus that cloud-based solution, there's a I wouldn't say pretty significant difference, but there is a difference between the two. Now, what that's not reflected there is that over time, over the lifetime of those systems, between the maintenance and the hardware exchanges that need to happen on the on-premise side, for the lifetime on the system, what it ends up looking and playing out to be is that the cloud-based system tends to be the more cost-effective over the entire life cycle of that system itself. And again, Verkada is going to touch base on that a little bit more in depth here in a second, but I always like to make sure that's understood. Cloud-based is a lot more predictable in what that total cost of ownership is going to be versus that on-premise side where there's a lot of hardware components that over the years as the system ages, things need to be maintained, things need to be switched out. And here are just some industry use cases for how cloud-based is used between retail with the real-time monitoring for loss prevention and customer insights, education, which is the multi-campus management and security, healthcare for secure patient and employee monitoring with HIPAA-compliant storage, and then the small businesses affordable, scalable solution with easy setup. So, doing my research, talking with my customers who have deployed Verkada about the reasoning why and why they lean towards cloud-based solutions versus on-premise solutions, the answers for that really lie within the pros, right? Very predictable cost of total ownership. There's not a lot of hidden costs there. So it's a lot easier to lay out what that cost is going to look like over an extended period of time, giving the company the ability to budget accordingly, right? So predictable costs. The ability that their system is going to evolve and change over time. They know that they're not going to need to go back in 5 years and have to replace everything with newer technology to do what that cloud-based can do, right? The scalability, the ability to more effectively add additional cameras and incorporate additional solutions into one pane of glass. So those three right there, and honestly, the list goes on and on and on. And as you start hearing Verkada talk, it'll just continue to reinforce a lot of those decisions that are being made. So with that being said, I am going to be passing this off to Joy Snyder, who is our Verkada Channel Sales Manager. All right, I'm gonna sound this out. Joy has done a lot of amazing things here in the St. Louis branch. She is my go-to person. It's been a pleasure working with her, and she really is an expert in her field. So she's going to be kind of talking with you about the Verkada platform and kind of everything that we talked about here. She's going to be diving a little bit deeper into what that cloud base has to offer, and not just talking about it, but showing you with a live demonstration, right? Because I don't know about you, seeing is believing. So she's going to take you through that now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Hello, everyone. My name is Joy. Like Brian mentioned, I'm the channel sales manager for Kansas and Missouri for Verkada. So I work with our partners like Warner Communications that help us actually sell this product and implement it and make the customers happy. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about who Verkada is. We've been hearing Verkada, that he has set the stage of what an on-prem solution versus an off-prem solution provides. And today I'm going to show you what Verkada has done. So who Verkada is, we're actually going to show you a live demo of the product itself. So you guys can actually see how it works and how they all of our products integrate together. And then you're going to hear a customer testimonial. We actually chose a school district, and I'm going to play that video for you guys. And then we're going to open it up for questions, and we'll all come up here and answer any questions that you guys have. So who is Verkada? We have 4 founders. They broke off from Cisco Meraki in 2016 and started Verkada with cameras out of a garage. They had this vision. They saw what the current physical security space looked like and saw the gap of an on-prem solution, and how do we make this more secure, more accessible, and just honestly easier to use. And this is what they've done. So they started Verkada in 2016, and we have grown it today to 24,000 plus customers. We are 74 on Fortune 500, a very fast growing company of 1,900 employees and then 16 offices across the globe. So we're not just in the US, we are actually worldwide. Our goal is to create a modern enterprise physical security solution utilizing the cloud. And our vision is really to protect people, places, and your privacy. So this is this traditional on-prem solution that Brian wonderfully outlined for us, where this is the NVR, and then you got your cameras connected to it. You got a router that then sends it to the monitor, and then it sends it, if you were to want to view it outside, you've got to send it past your firewall, and then it gets to your device, okay? So lots of components in here. And like Brian mentioned, lots of components that can go wrong. So what's happening is this NVR is hooked up to 25 cameras. And what happens if that NVR goes out? You're, number one, probably not notified about it. And then number 2, you have 25 cameras that are not doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. So you have a huge lapse in coverage. And then, if you were to try to scale this system, so you are adding another building, you're buying more NVRs, you're actually having to open up ports, which is going to make you more vulnerable to security risks, okay? So this is, if you can imagine the 90s and movies, you walk into this command room and there's 20 TVs and they're all, you're watching 20 different footages. That's that on-prem solution look, okay? Again, like I mentioned, limited storage, increased vulnerabilities, difficult to access, and just really difficult to scale. So Verkada has made the hybrid cloud-based system. So we have our products, which I'm going to go into here in a minute. But what we are able to do is by leveraging the cloud, we are able to scale limitlessly and then really monitor your system from anywhere in the world. So what do we have? We have cameras, high definition video footage. We use AI analytics to help with those cameras. We have access control to monitor your entryways, who's coming in and out of your entryways, how many people. You can use key cards. We use mobile apps. We use web unlocks to monitor or to control our access control. Air quality. We have sensors, both in environmental and motion sensors that allow you to really provide insight into what's happening before it actually happens. Alarms to alert you when there has been a security breach. Guest check-in to see who is actually in your facility, where they're going, and when integrated with our cameras, you actually follow that person around your facility and know exactly where they're going, and they're going where they should be and not where they shouldn't be. This is actually very useful with schools. It runs through 6 different databases, sex offenders list including, so you actually know exactly who is coming into your property, as well as hospital settings. We have mailroom. This is a smaller feature, but it is very beneficial for bigger corporations that need management with incoming packages, outgoing packages, who's picking it up, have they picked it up, timing, all that kind of stuff. And then our intercom. This is my favorite product. It's 3 products in one. You get a Verkada camera, you get an access control in that, and then you got a 2-way talking. So again, our intercom, you're able to unlock that door from your phone, the web, a key card, and whatnot. All of these products, we're not the first to come out with a camera. We're not the first to come out with access control. But what Verkada does that no other company is doing to the level that we're doing it and at the cloud is this big circle right here. It's called command. This is our command room where you can view it from anywhere in the world. So what this command system does is it integrates all of these different security features. So we have, a lot of you customers in here, and it's not one specific vertical, but as you continue to grow, if you're maybe a school, you may have, a couple more products than another company, but you're able to integrate these seamlessly. What I see in the field is right now, there are different manufacturers for each of these different product lines. If your job was to take care of that and manage that, how hard would that be? How frustrated would you be when you're having 7 different manufacturers and having to manage those under 7 different places? Okay, so Verkada brings it all together where you can manage it in one single place from anywhere. 92% of security leaders see that this is the way the industry is moving. We're going to talk a little bit about how it is more secure to be in the cloud versus an on-prem solution and why we're moving this way. I'm going to touch on total cost of ownership. So I know Brian touched on this one as well. We are not the cheapest solution out there. However, we're also not the most expensive, okay? There is a rhyme to this reason. You've got a hardware price and a license price, okay? The licensing price is the cloud. So what we do is the actual camera itself is what is storing the footage. You can get a 30-day retention, 60, 90, or 365, okay? And it's storing that footage on the camera itself, not in the cloud. So once you want to archive this incident, that is when you can archive it and save it into the cloud. This helps with bandwidth. You don't have, this NVR that's being overloaded with 25 different camera 24-hour clips. You are able to just manage what you actually need in the cloud. For our total cost of ownership, there are no hidden costs. It's predictable, okay? I love what Brian said about the subscriptions. I'm going to change a little bit of that word for we are not a subscription. We are a licensing. So we have a 1, 3, 5, and 10-year license. You have the ability to buy a 10-year license and not touch another dime for 10 years. Okay, that's not subscription. We don't do monthly subscriptions. There's nothing like that. It's a 1, 3, 5, or 10-year. 10-year warranty on hardware. There is very little manufacturers, if any other manufacturers, that do a 10-year warranty. Anytime that camera goes down, we will, if we can't fix it over the cloud, we will send you a new one within 48 hours. Best-in-class technical support. We actually have a technical support chat, which Stephen will go over here in a second. 97% of cases are resolved over that support chat. They are answered within the first minute. If we cannot resolve your issue, we're going to ship you a new camera within 48 hours and you have a new camera, like Brian said. No ongoing maintenance costs. With the NVR system, if that NVR goes down, you're going to have to go buy another NVR. What if the router goes down, the switch? There's multiple products that could go down. With ours, we're going to ship you a new camera if it goes down. So no ongoing maintenance and costs, whereas these other solutions, an on-prem solution, may be a little cheaper up front, but you will be nickeled and dimed due to maintenance costs, buying new products and whatnot. No ongoing software costs. So this is, I have a little joke. We have great products. Worst time you're going to buy a Verkada camera is the day you buy it, and it's an amazing camera that day because we always push through firmware and software updates through the cloud. So your product will continuously get better as you own it, as automatic firmware updates, and then you're able to configure Verkada, and as you will see soon, to unlimited users. You can have admin rights for employees, but then also configure that however you guys need for your business. Total cost of ownership. So up to 15% lower for smaller businesses. Verkada is up to 15% lower for smaller businesses, up to 25% cheaper for commercial businesses, and then up to 40% for multi-site retail operations. Again, our ideal customer is these multi-locations because you're able to integrate all of your different locations, as you will see, under one single pane of glass. You can integrate your Florida location, your Kansas location, your Missouri location, and see it all and manage it under one single pane of glass. So why do customers love Verkada? We're easy, we're smart, and we're scalable. So I have one question. How many of you guys are Apple users? Apple phone? Raise your hand. Okay. What do you guys like about Apple? Huh? One platform. It's easy. Because what does Apple do? My Apple phone connects to my Apple Watch, which connects to my AirPod, which connects to my Mac. So it all works seamlessly together. And that's exactly the approach Verkada took, is we want things to work easily together. These are some of our trusted industry leaders that have Verkada currently. Hilton, DaVita, Dole, Salesforce, all of these customers love Verkada. I'm going to show you a little video of one of our school districts and really show you why they love Verkada. We're going to listen to La Canada Unified School District and see how they utilize Verkada and why they use Verkada.
In 2019, our community was really looking for a way to respond to what happened in Parkland. We formed a safety and security committee that quickly morphed to include the concept of wellness. So we were initially looking at a series of over 60 solutions that would help our community feel safer. What we discovered was we needed a partner that would help solve some real challenges for our community. A big win for us with Verkada is just the change of the proactive stance of security on our campuses. We have integrated in all facets, from getting greeted at the door, to alarms, to our cameras, to intercom. When we first added cameras to our environment, we also added the alarm subscription. On our maintenance yard, we'd had at least 5 break-ins and catalytic converters stolen. After we added cameras and alarm monitoring, we were able to stop those thefts. Knowing that you just log in and you can see all the pieces of our security product in one place has really been a time saver for us. We can train everybody that needs to use a system very quickly. We've installed several air quality sensors on our campuses, and first we started with our server rooms. We needed a way to know humidity levels and that everything was running efficiently, and we have real-time data on the air quality in those spaces. One of the best features about Guest is its ability to customize which features you want to use. So for example, if you want to turn on background check, you have that option. If you want to have a list of people who aren't allowed on campus, you can enable that option. Yesterday, I was doing a lesson with some FBI agents, and when they came in and I had them check in with guests, they were super impressed. They printed out their badges. I got the notification that they're on campus, and they really highlighted how this was something they hadn't seen at other schools, and they were appreciative of the safety measures we had. Previously, we had a system where one human had to walk door to door to create key card access. So if you can imagine, my badge has 800 doors on it. So if I lose my badge, that means a human has to walk to 800 doors. Access control solves that problem. We're easily able to add access to anyone's key card based on groups and roles, and this saves us a ton of time. Having a way for our staff members to know who's at their door has been on the wish list for several years. And then when we heard Verkada was launching Intercom, we immediately knew it was the right product for us. If someone pushes the button, they can receive that on their cell phone or a tablet, and they don't have to worry about running out of the office really quickly and missing something important at the door. I appreciate Verkada's roadmap, their attention to innovation, and that they're able to let us scale. It's super flexible for us. We can add the components that we need at our own pace, and that's just been incredible.
Now I'm going to invite Stephen Maurer, who is our enterprise account executive with Verkada. He lives here in local St. Louis. He's actually going to show you the product itself. So our command platform.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out of your day today. As Joy and Brian mentioned, my name's Stephen Maurer. I'm the enterprise account executive for Verkada, based here in St. Louis, born and raised a guy. Family and I live right over in Kirkwood. And so since this is the show me state, now it's time to show you guys what we've been talking about, right? So just by a show of hands real quick, has anybody seen a Verkada demo? Is anybody familiar with the platform? Okay, good. Quite a few. Excellent. Wanted to be interactive, but also I'm told that we have a hard stop at 1 for everybody to get back to their day. So I'll probably stay pretty high level, but obviously if there's additional interest after today, work through Brian and Warner Communications and we can do an on-site demonstration. And we also do trials. We're very big on getting our products into our customers and potential customers' hands. What better way to see if a solution would work than try it out? So everybody can see the command platform, okay, correct? Perfect. So as Brian alluded to, this is accessible from anywhere that you have an internet connection. Mobile app parity is almost 1-to-1. So anything that I walk through today, imagine doing that on your mobile device. So this is the homepage, right? It defaults to our cameras, but if you toggle up into the left portion of the screen, I highlighted that waffle, and it'll actually show you all the products within the Verkada command portfolio. As mentioned, one of the biggest attributes of a cloud-based system is our scalability. So 70% of our customers have more than one product, but very few implement the entire portfolio from day one, right? Maybe there was initial investment into an alarm system, or maybe they just updated their access control readers. But we have the ability to grow with you over time as needs arise. So we'll start on cameras. I do like to highlight the floor plans. So right here, I'm able to click onto the Google map, and we'll use our headquarters example in San Mateo, California. This is where all of our cameras actually provide the demo environment. So this is a floor plan, right? Think retail, think manufacturing, think those types of applications, school districts, obviously. So what this is showing you right here is all of your cameras. Green is good. Green means that the camera is online. If it were to be yellow, red, that means that there's an issue with the camera. And as Joy and Brian mentioned, one thing that we're really big on that we'll never get away from as we continue to grow is our customer service. So when you combine the field tech experience of a Warner with the 24/7 support of Verkada, you have a very powerful team behind you. Whether it's chat, text, email, phone call, we actually publicize our support response times, and they tend to be sub 3 minutes from not only time that the initial contact is made by the end customer, but that's actually time to resolution. So again, a huge advantage of a cloud-based system is you don't have to make a phone call to a field technician to come out to your physical location and start to troubleshoot an issue. Couple things about the floor plan, right? You can look up door events. You can do motion detection. So see where there's the most motion occurring in your facility at a given time. And then heat maps as well. This was huge during COVID, obviously with all the constraints around people gathering, social distancing, all of that stuff. But also think retail applications, think school districts, think of an instant visibility into where the majority of the folks are in your campus at a given time. So we'll actually go back to our camera's homepage, and let's click into a camera. So again, this is a camera outside of our headquarters in San Mateo, California. A couple of things that you'll notice right away is the ability to use shortcuts. So in an example that you're trying to follow a perpetrator or an individual in live action, I can actually pan over to the next camera that is a shortcut on that camera page, and it takes you right inside this door to our little barista coffee shop that we have at our HQ office. And then I'll toggle back to that exterior camera. One really neat ability is how easy it is to share live footage. So whether it's police authorities, somebody internal, whatever use case you may have to share live footage, just by the click of a button. And if I have a brave volunteer that's willing to give out their cell phone number, I can show you exactly how this works. Anybody? Nice and loud for me. Rick. 636 St. Louis. So I'm going to add this phone. Rick, you're going to get a link, and I want you to tell me how quick to click onto that link and tell me if you're viewing what I'm viewing right now. There's no additional authentication needed. So I think that was sub 30 seconds. I just shared footage with Rick over here. So thank you, Rick. I'm not sure if I gave you access for an hour or the full day, but definitely, play around with the platform. No, they cannot. No, they certainly cannot. Some other shortcuts that we have. One big one is motion search. So let's say you had an incident that somebody stole this bike. So I just drew a grid over that bicycle, and it's going to populate below all these thumbnail clips every time a person crossed into that particular frame. I can click right into one of these thumbnails. It's going to take me right to that event. Let's say this individual was my perpetrator. What do I want to do now, right? It's all about aggregating data and video clips and evidence for an incident report. All this is fine and dandy, but if you can't aggregate it efficiently into an incident report, what's the purpose, right? So just from this single page right here, I can create a new incident report. I can add it to an existing incident report. And then once I do that, I believe Brian mentioned the ability to have unlimited archiving within Command. So all of your archives are going to be saved in the Command Cloud and accessible for the entire life period of your Verkada relationship. So that was like current footage, right? How do we share live streams? Now let's talk about, outside of just motion, how you can go and search historical footage. So we find this to be a huge advantage of a cloud-based platform is the ability to find previous footage. So I just showed you how we could do motion. We can also do history. So if somebody within the organization has a good idea of date and time frame, quickly drill down, breaks it down into more digestible thumbnails that I can quickly investigate on. People attributes. So let's say that somebody in the facility reported an incident, couldn't really get too much of a detailed description, but knew it was an individual that appeared to be a male. That individual was wearing a red shirt. And since I didn't commit any crimes today, let's say that the lower body, let's do a Steve from State Farm example. So I quickly, just 3 clicks, was able to use people attributes to drill down into these. It's still populating more, but anyway, just a very quick way to use people attributes to search historical footage. So let's say that this gentleman right here is our person of interest. Here he comes. There's his red shirt. He appears to definitely be a male, and he has khakis. So again, same workflow. I can archive this clip and save it to where I can share it externally with anybody that would need to review. So that's pretty cool, right? Like that's a quick way to search through historical footage. Well, we took it a step further. I'm sure you all have heard the terms AI, and you probably roll your eyes. I do. It's the most overused buzzword right now in technology, but I'll show you right now how we've injected AI into our platform. If anybody has database experience, they could be familiar with for free-form text search. So right here, you see it's just a Google-like experience at the very top of your screen. And I'll do something that's already built out for time's sake. So let's do person wearing a hard hat. So imagine any type of query that you want to search for. Use cases like in manufacturing, person wearing a vest and not a helmet. You can expand this to any particular criteria that meets your organization. And the learning models get smarter as we go. So again, this is outside of our corporate office, so not a ton of hard hats, but I think y'all kind of get the idea. You can actually add images as well. So if you add an image of a person, a vehicle, pop that right into the search experience, and it's going to populate those thumbnails as well. We talked a lot about analytics. So all of our platform is built in with a lot of robust analytics. One big one is occupancy trends. So you're able to see how many folks have entered or exited your particular property or a given area just by drawing a digital line. So you see right here, this is the line that's producing these analytics down here. Again, this is an exterior exit door. So you see a lot of people exiting the building. The reasoning for the weighted red versus green. Vehicles as well. I like to navigate over to the left side of command here to highlight vehicles. So anything we can do with people, we're also doing with vehicles as well. We can do license plate recognition up to 80 miles using our bullet cameras. So just like you can create a person of interest, you can create a vehicle of interest, meaning that if I want to track a vehicle to where every time it enters my property, I get a proactive notification, you can do that within command. So that's pretty much the meat and potatoes as far as cameras are concerned. Now, where really the power of an enterprise platform like Verkada really starts to show is what Brian and Joy did a good job of highlighting, is just the combination of all of our solutions into a single pane of glass. So I use that same waffle. I'm going to toggle over to our access control. So these are all my doors. You're able to quickly see that they're online, broken out by site. And then this is really where it starts to get powerful. So with an access control solution, standalone in place that gives you good notifications and tells you when a door has been opened or closed, or maybe when a tailgating event has occurred. That's when there's one swipe and more than one person enters that particular door. But if you don't have video verification, how are you to do anything with that information? Think about that for a second. Like, it's good to know, but what are you actually going to do with it? So these are two contextual cameras that we have set up pointed at this door that's access controlled. Joy mentioned the ability to do a quick web unlock, or getting a call at 2 a.m. in the morning saying, hey, I'm locked out, I need you to come. I just unlocked that door web interface right here. All of my door events, so anytime a person has swiped a badge, used their phone for Bluetooth, we can also do NFC credentials. So with Apple and Android, you're able to use your phone to enter an access controlled door. So see if we can find a NFC. So here's an example of one of our employees coming up to the door. Boom, pops her phone right there. She was given NFC credential by her administrator, so she's able to access the building effortlessly. Now, I mentioned tailgating, right? So our cameras have the analytics built in to where you can search by a number of different events. So whether it's door held open, door forced open, but one big one that I mentioned was tailgating. So just by doing an events search, I'm going to be able to see, it looks like we have some offenders at our headquarters office that it's not smart to tailgate at a Verkada office. Let's just put it that way. So again, one swipe, two people entered. Who is this guy? Who is this second guy? Nobody knows. Is he supposed to be in the building? Was he in a... We know if he's a criminal. Like, there's a lot of things that can be overlooked in the event of tailgating. So especially sensitive organizations like manufacturing, healthcare, schools. So just think about that as you start to kind of think about the art of the possible of your particular use cases. Another huge advantage of a cloud-based system is being able to tie in with Active Directory and single sign-on. So think about organizations that have high numbers of turnover or high number of turnover. The ability to make the onboarding and offboarding process very seamless to where you can create user groups that are assigned to specific buildings and even specific doors within those buildings. And the ability to, once a person's terminated, by coming in to the command platform, you can ensure that their access to the doors that they had previously were able to enter, they are immediately no longer able to enter those. You can set up specific credentials for different types of employees. I know sometimes employees are hesitant to use their smartphones, so it doesn't have to be all Bluetooth. We very much have a lot of the cloud-based functionality, but we can do cards still, physical ID badges, you name it. Schedules as well. So the ability to create a schedule, right? This just takes a lot of the administrative headache off of your plate. Let's say you're not a 24/7 facility. You can come in here, you can customize a schedule that's going to allow your doors to be accessible during those hours, but not outside of those. Reporting, again, this is something that our customers, as we figure out what's working today and what's not working today, is around reporting. It's very difficult. If I asked all of you to give me a report that shows who has access to what doors and what building and why, that might cause a little anxiety. Whereas in the Verkada platform, it's literally 2 or 3 clicks and you're able to generate that report in the event of an audit. Or a lot of times if an event, a security incident occurs, you're going to have people that are going to be coming on site asking questions to figure out why. So that's access control. I'll quickly highlight some of the other products within the portfolio. But again, I think everybody's starting to kind of get the messaging around companies and organizations. Sorry, I'm on the enterprise corporate space, so I mainly work with healthcare, retail, manufacturing, but I want to make sure I'm appealing to the schools also. There's a huge need for environmental sensors as well. The vaping epidemic, it's very unfortunate, but we have a lot of children that are vaping in schools, so we were able to tie in our air quality sensors directly into the command platform, so you can set up different types of alerts and monitoring. This is a parking lot example, so you can see all the different indexes at which this air sensor is recording, and be able to track thresholds. So manufacturing use case, let's say air quality is top of mind. You can set certain thresholds up to where if those are exceeded, you'll get a proactive alert. So again, we've gone really fast. Nothing has been specific to anybody's organization and what's working and what's not working today. I would encourage you, contact Brian, contact the Warner team. There's additional representatives from Verkada. We're very much able to come on site, assess your particular needs, walk through a tailored demonstration, and then we're big on trials, as you mentioned. It's a no cost, no obligation, 30-day trial. So definitely some certain things to keep in mind. But with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Brian because I think we're going to do some Q&A. But thank you very much for everybody's time.
Isn't that so cool? So again, just to recap, this was a very big bird's eye view of what this system is really capable of. Really, each one of those platforms, you could dive in, going each over, the specific details for a longer period of time. So if that's something that you want to see a little bit more in depth, make sure you get a rep. We can set up an on-site demo. Or even what Steve said, we can do free trials of this equipment. So if you're like, you know what, I want to see how this camera performs in my space, we would love to bring that camera on site, install it free of charge, so that way you can try that out yourself, right? Because there's a power to that. There is a power to seeing it, but then testing that product out for yourself to ensure it's going to be a good fit. So at this time, I've been seeing some questions come through during the presentation. I love seeing that interaction. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to the Q&A, where Mike will be reading off some of those questions, and Stephen and I will be going over and doing our best to answer. If we don't have an answer for you today, we will get an answer to you tomorrow. So.
All right. So I saw a couple of hands go up during the presentation. So I'll start with live questions. Is there anybody that has a question they'd like to ask? Yes, sir.
Get a 10-year license and the technology as far as the camera changes. Will the cameras be updated? Like if I started off with a camera that was 1080 or in some other technology, I had a 10-year, would Verkada provide the newer cameras, or would you have to repurchase those cameras?
That is a fantastic question. So in the event one of our camera models during your 10-year licensing period would go end of life, end of support, you would get sent out the next generation model at zero cost to you. So from a total cost of ownership standpoint, if you purchase our cameras with a 10-year license, from Verkada, you will not pay a single dime for the next 10 years.
Yes, sir.
Great question, though.
When it comes to the cloud networking technology, what kind of backup is there for that kind of case? Let's say the internet does crash.
Sure. So in the event the internet connection gives out, our cameras are still recording that footage. You're just not able to make any changes to the settings or configuration in real time. But once the internet connectivity comes back online, same features and functionality, be able to go. Let's say an incident occurred, ironically, when the internet was out, you'll absolutely have the capability to go back and review that incident. Great question. And then as far as everything in Verkada is ran off the AWS cloud, we're in probably 10 to 15 availability zones around the United States and the world. And we have a full disaster recovery plan. We're SOC 2 compliant. So any concerns or any additional information that you would like to see on that, there's a portal on our website to where we're very upfront with sending out that information. Great question.
So in no particular order, does Verkada manufacture its own cameras or utilize other brands? And if so, which?
We manufacture all of our own devices.
Okay. Can you have different classes of permissions for door access schedules? Some folks do need 24/7, but the rest don't.
100%. And that was something that we've developed over time in our platform. We're always going to be a software first company to have enough granular functionality, but make it user friendly. So that was something that multiple location organizations need to have, is multi-site permissioning and even multi-group permissioning. So somebody at a macro level within the organization should have access to every door, every feature and functionality within the platform. Maybe a site manager or a GM at one particular location just needs to have access and the ability to make changes to their particular site. So, great question.
Do you offer home security options?
We don't. I have a lot of our Verkada devices set up at my home, but no, we don't have any. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, we don't have any. Well, we do it so we can demonstrate and show, different things within the platform. But I think probably back in 2016, 2017, we made the decision to not go residential. Even though the more and more I see our engineers set up the devices at their homes, the more I kind of wonder why we didn't break off into that a little bit. But I just think from the beginning, we wanted to create a enterprise solution that was more commercial facing as opposed to residential. But
okay. Somebody asked, how do you zoom in on the Verkada cameras?
Sure. So certain cameras will come with the ability to do a zoom. So let me just, being that we're in the show me state. So let's say, you see the icons that I'm clicking onto right here. So again, certain models don't have the ability to zoom in, but a lot of our mid models and above do. So you just have the ability to zoom right in through the web interface right here.
Okay, the next question was about classic alarms versus alarms that came up during the demo.
Great question. So with the theme of your system always getting smarter, we revamped our entire alarms platform just to make it a lot more user friendly and bake in some of the additional functionality that we have. So similar to access control, right? I can drill right into a particular site. It gives me all my information that I need. A lot of times you don't know what site, even maybe an alert comes in. Google Map, see your site right there. So on and so forth. Trying to get back to door event or alarm events here. There we go. A running history of everything within that particular site is available as well. Something to highlight real quick if we have time, just again, kind of the power of the platform and new alarms versus classic alarms. We're now tying in our cameras to be able to help trigger alarms. So right now I have a loitering box that's set right over this area right here. So if anybody is in that box that I drew within over a 15-second time frame, somebody from my organization is going to get an alert. If anybody's on the roof, this is just a person detected. Nobody should be on that roof. If somebody is, I'm going to get an alert. You can change this on the fly. So let's say I wanted to extend it out right there. You see it's going to estimate the amount of alarms that's going to trigger in a particular week. So one's not too bad, but really no need to extend it out to the parking lot. Again, another way to help eliminate false alarms. But that's a great question, just a testament to, for example, if our customers, if you were a alarms customer, you got access to the new alarms platform overnight at zero cost to you.
Got a lot of questions coming in. Thank you for everybody who's scanning their QR code and asking these questions. So one just came in. If someone authorizes an access point to be opened remotely, is there a log for who authorized it and gave the person access to enter?
So you would click on which door you were interested in, and then it's going to show you all of your events are populated down here below. But also that reporting functionality that I showed you, you can by 2 or 3 clicks be able to produce a report that shows who has access to that door.
Got it. So if I'm in a command center somewhere and I remotely open a door for someone, would it log that I was the user that did that?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay,
Let's see if my web unlock. There you go. So right there. So I just did a web unlock right here, and then Joyce Snyder, web unlock, time-stamped. So you immediately see who entered the door and if you have video verification set up as well.
Perfect. Next question is, do you offer a solar license plate camera?
As of right now, we're not doing anything in the solar space, but more to come. We have to be sensitive when we talk about things that are on the roadmap, but yeah, just know that solar is definitely a use case that I think our engineering team is working on. We can, as far as connectivity is concerned, we can absolutely, if it's a place that in a rural use case or a place that doesn't have good internet connection, we can use a cellular gateway to be able to power that to the network. We also just came out with a Wi-Fi gateway as well. I'm not sure if you were aware of that one yet, but if you have a building, parking lot use case, we can extend the Wi-Fi out to the parking lot to be able to get visibility there as well.
Yeah. Brian, if I can ask 2, I think I can condense most of the remaining questions into these 2. So the first one is, what happens to my footage and the cameras if Verkada goes under?
Your data is your data. The only time anybody from Verkada would have access to your data is the workflow that Brian described, where you would give us authentication token and it's temporary access. So just like any cloud-based technology, when you're renting resources, that data is not Verkada's. That data is yours. But that's when our disaster recovery, or I guess our business continuity plan, would come into play if, for example, Verkada were ever to go under. But
and that's the nature of the questions: is do I own my own data? That's another question. You know, do I own the cameras and so forth? There were 3 questions that kind of incorporated that.
Absolutely. Great question.
The other one is, what type of anti-tampering measures do Verkada cameras have?
Great question. So they're all built in, or certain models are built in with anti-tampering. So in the event somebody is messing with the camera, especially during particular hours, you can set up alerts to where those cameras are not going to get stolen.
Run it over with a car and it won't break.
Correct. Yeah, very.
I mean, they're very. No.
Let's try it out. Where is one? Yes, but we can't promise it'll work in every single application per se, but there are tampering mechanisms built into the camera.
Perfect. And you're talking about physical tampering. There was a question also about people accessing the cameras without permission, hacking into them, basically.
Sure. So yes, so I was referring to physical tampering with the device. As far as somebody gaining unauthorized access, I think we'd be talking about like a network breach at that point in time, somebody accessing your system. And I think, we could help you diagnose and troubleshoot that. But yeah, mainly the tampering as far as physical security is concerned.
Also, on the tampering, this footage is stored on the camera. It's not in the cloud. On an on-prem solution, it's all in the NVR. If they get into that NVR, they have that 25 cameras of footage that they can now access. If they end up breaking in, our tampering alerts and nothing works out, and God forbid they break in, they only have access to that one camera footage and not the whole property footage from that NVR. And that is the security of Verkada.
So I have a local construction company, and they actually had this come up recently. So what my main contact did is he sent me all the serial numbers, and we flagged them in our system. So if anybody tries to do anything with that camera, they're immediately going to get shut down.
Okay. There were 19 questions here. We didn't get to all of them. So if anybody has a question that was not answered, please grab me, grab Brian, Joy, Stephen, Matt. Any of us are happy to help you with your questions. And I will leave it there, Brian.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
All right, guys. I swear, me and microphones just don't have a good combination, which is why I'm a really loud person. So if we didn't get to your question today, I do apologize. Or if you want a little bit more of an in-depth answer based off one of the questions that you did have, please feel free to come with us today. If we don't have an answer for you today, we can get Verkada engineer to get a little bit more on the technical specs. Again, I'm not a technical guy. I don't speak binary, but so we have the resources to get you answers to those questions. All right, and again, if this is something that you want to see a little bit more in depth, because again, this was a little bit more of a bird's eye view. If we wanted to dive a little bit more into the guest management platforms, a little bit more into the alarm platforms, we would love to set that up with you individually, either be it virtually or in person, where we can do a little bit more of a deeper dive into each individual platform, maybe the platforms that you want to get a little bit more information on. But we would love to take that journey with you, guide you through that, show you a little bit more in depth. And then the next step from there, again, I touched on this earlier, but I like to reinforce the fact I love doing free trials for the cameras, right? If this is something, you know what, I think this is going to be a good fit, but I want to put it to the test, let's put it to the test. We would love to come out free of charge, put that camera up, install it for you, let you use it over a discussed amount of time, and then see how it performs in your atmosphere. All right. And if you like the camera, then the camera can stay. You're like, you know what, Brian? I know we're at the end of my trial here, but I'm not going to give the camera back to you. That is totally fine. That's your camera now. All right. So we love doing that with you guys. So really appreciate everybody coming out here today. This is a great turnout. We're very grateful for you guys coming on site. Thank you, guys.